I want to make a video today to address the mass shooting in Texas, the Texas church shooting that just happened yesterday. I don't want to address it directly, but I want to address the idea of this type of shooting and the media's coverage of this type of shooting. And I want to say one thing that I was actually happy to see the media say today after going to great lengths to not say it. But while I was watching the coverage of the shooting day, one of the consultants on CNN, his name was like Steve Moore or something, I want to say. But he is a law enforcement and security consultant for CNN. I'd have to look up his name, but I can't remember it exactly. I was at the end of what I could back up through on my DVR, so I couldn't see him again after I heard him say it. But he said one thing that the media hates to say, and that there is one common thing between all mass shootings that actually fit the description of what most of us consider as a mass shooting, like an attack on multiple people by a single individual with no other agenda other than to kill people for one reason or another. Be it terrorism, domestic dispute, whatever, if they're attacking multiple people. And he said there's one common thread between all these types of shootings, that once the shooter, the attacker, the criminal, the killer we should call him, once the killer is confronted by someone that can meet them with equal force, they either flee or they kill themselves. The shooting stops. The attack stops. That's the one common thread. And he was pointing out that even here in this Texas attack, as soon as the neighbor came out, shot at him, and the media was reporting at first that a neighbor shot at him. After they had to start reporting it, they said, well, he shot at him, but then he fled and shot himself in the car and committed suicide. And then after they were kind of called on that BS by a local law enforcement official on air, I noticed they changed the little tag at the bottom to shooter. They always like to call him shooter, not killer. The killer may have, and they put quotation marks around may have committed suicide. They still wanted to stick to the story that he ended his own life because he was done. You know, they did not want to admit that this person across the street didn't just exchange fire with him, he shot him. That's why he dropped his rifle, that's why he jumped in his car, and that's why he fled, because he'd been mortally wounded. He even called his father once he got in the car and said, I've been shot, I don't think I'm going to live, blah, blah, blah. So a good guy with a gun stopped him. This guy showed every indication that he was after his in-laws. He went to their church, shot up their church. They weren't there. He was leaving, and he was dressed in a way that he planned on surviving. He was wearing, this time was wearing a ballistic plate. They often report that, and it's not true, but this time it looks like that's true. So he was probably, in any likelihood, if anyone who's a professional would look at this, they would say he was most likely going to get in his vehicle and go to the next place he thought his in-laws might be. Be that the mall, their home, a public place, wherever it is he thought they would be if they weren't in that church, which they weren't, he was going there next. But a good Samaritan, a good guy with a gun, came out, met force with force, hit him without getting hit himself, which is the number one thing of a gunfight, and you ask me, other than have a gun, is make sure you hit them before they hit you. Doesn't matter how many rounds you have or anything like that, it's you hit them before they hit you. And this guy accomplished that. The guy fled. He stopped what he was going to do next. Now, the bad thing is there wasn't someone there that could have met him with force before he came in the doors, because he started shooting outside and then came inside and shot, and no one could fight back. They started praying, but prayers don't really work too well as a bullet shield. So he was able to be as successful as he was because no one in there could fight back. As soon as he was leaving and going to another target, which is most likely what he's doing, a good guy with a gun stopped him. So I was really happy to see this guy say, hey, the one common factor in all these things is once they're met by a good guy with a gun or someone that can meet them with equal force, the shooting is over, the attack is over, the killing is over, whatever you want to call it. Of course, they love, like I say, to call it shootings. They don't like to say killings because then it doesn't blame the tool. So that's the one thing we can all take from this. These type attacks are rare. They're very, very rare. No matter what they try to make you think, like, there's been 360 mass shootings. That's crap. That is a garbage statistic from a Bloomberg-based organization. It's total garbage. Even the CDC says that that's a really questionable way to rate mass killings, but the media still loves to do it. So there is a lesson we can take from this. And it's not about what we need to do for mental health. It's not what we need to do about guns. It's that the one thing that stops bad guys with guns is good guys with guns, or good guys that can at least meet them with equal force, or at least an opposing force. These people are cowards and they do not like fair fights. And once they get into a fair fight, they panic and flee or end their own lives. So, like I've said multiple times in this story, the media hated to have to admit that this guy was shot and killed by a good guy with a gun. That is a problem to me. The fact that they were so reluctant to admit that the guy that came in with his rifle and the guy whose truck he jumped in helped him chase him down, that they were the ones that stopped this guy. Because they love to be able to say, only a trained police officer with a gun is good at stopping bad guys. That's not true. It is whenever these people are met by anyone that can fight back with equal force. They're cowards. So the media not wanting to report that, that's a problem. That's a bias and it needs to be dealt with. But the real lesson that they finally had to admit is that in all these cases, the one thing, like I said, that can stop a bad guy with a gun, as we've always said, is a good guy with a gun.